back, Scouts. For this experiment, we're going to be making something called Oobleck. This is one of my favorite things to do, and it's a lot of fun to play with, and you can find everything you need around the house. And we're going to be using cornstarch and just water. So I start with 1 cup of water, and I'm going to put it back into my blue bowl here. You need some kind of a container for this one to keep everything together and mix it together. And then you need 1 to 2 cups of cornstarch. And the reason it's 1 to 2 cups is because if you get it a little bit too wet, you can always add more. And this is another one that you just have to experiment with and get it mixed up until it's right. So we're going to do just a little bit at a time. And I always like diving right in and getting messy, so I'm just going to use my hands here, but you could use a whisk or a fork if you wanted to. Just a little bit at a time. Maybe a 1/4 of a cup at a time or so. Ooh. Dino Dan's in his kennel still, and he's not very happy with that, so it's time to go to bed, Dan. Don't you growl at me. Yeah. Keep it up, and I'm gonna not feed you that triceratops that's in the refrigerator. The mosquitoes are really bad here in Iowa, and you guys will have to let me know in the different parts of the country where you're from if you have to deal with the mosquitoes, but summertime in Iowa, they're pretty bad. Alright, there's the rest of my 1st cup. Get that all mixed in. Now, Oobleck is considered a non-Newtonian fluid. And that's because it doesn't adhere to the normal properties of matter or different qualities that make up matter. Now you can see here it's still watery, so I'm going to go ahead and just going to kind of guess here and add a little bit more cornstarch at a time until it gets to the consistency that I'm looking for. And I'll show you what that looks like because you'll know it when you get there. Reason that this qualifies as a non-Newtonian fluid is because it doesn't adhere to the normal properties of a liquid or the normal properties of a solid. The reason for that is when you apply pressure to it, that is what changes the different type of matter. Normal things that you think of when you're thinking about different types of matter would be changing from a liquid to a solid to a gas. Now, we all know what that looks like because that's what happens when you take water, a liquid, put it in your freezer, turns it into a solid, or if you boil it, the steam that's coming off of it is a gas. And all we're doing is taking these really fine particles of cornstarch and separating all of them with water. And this is going to take quite a bit of cornstarch here. I'm getting closer to my 2 cups now, but Dan, it's not dinner time yet. You already had a snack. Yeah, he's kind of bummed out because I made him go hang out in his cage, but just like your dog at home, Dan can be a little rascally at night, so he ends up having to stay in his kennel. My dog sleeps in my bed with me, and Dan doesn't like that, but Dino Dan does not fit in a bed. Alright, we're getting close here. You'll know it's getting close because if you start moving your fingers through it really fast, it'll feel like a solid, and if you go really slow, it'll feel more like a liquid. So just about there here. And if I end up accidentally adding too much, I can always add more water. So just experiment and try. This one's pretty forgiving. If you get it too dry, you add more water. If it's still too wet, you just keep adding cornstarch. Just about there. Make sure we get all the dry pockets of cornstarch absorbed into the water here. And I've been making this one since I was a little kid. I've always really enjoyed this one. This is a lot of fun to play with, and I first learned how to make this when I was still a Cub Scout, and we did this at one of our den meetings. Anything that I can do to get my hands into it and get messy and play around and have fun and still learn something at the same time, I think that's a lot of fun. So I'm going to ask my cameraman now to get the camera and bring it up over the bowl here so that we can see. Alright, so you can see if I move my hands really slow, they go right through it just like water. And this has kind of similar properties as quickstand would. So to change the matter here, if you tap it, it acts like a solid. See, it doesn't stick to my hands. And what that's doing is when I tap it, it causes the cornstarch to condense and it won't let you into the liquid here. And if I go really slow, my fingers go right in. And you can even pick it up and then it just runs right through your fingers. And then tap it, it all goes back together. So you get it to run down the side of the bowl here. Tap it, it acts like a solid. And I grab a big handful and it runs right through my fingers. If you go slower, it allows the cornstarch molecules to get out of the way and your hands go through the water. So give this one a shot. If you want to add some color to it, you can add some color to your water, or you can add some food coloring to it now. But always remember that food coloring will stain, so make sure you're careful with it, and always ask for permission and help from an adult. Have fun, guys.